Hello and welcome. Welcome back to That Guy's Wrestling Podcast, part of the Fight Bananas umbrella. It has been a little while. It's been a couple weeks since you've heard my voice, since you've got to listen to my opinions on the world of professional wrestling. I've been enjoying a little bit of a summer vacation. As you know, I am a school teacher during the day, so I am off and home with my family. And not only that, it has been just an interesting and challenging time for our country, both as an actual country, and then also as wrestling fans in the wrestling industry. So I kind of just enjoyed getting away for a few days, kind of getting away from social media, just taking a little bit of a mental break. I know a lot has been going on, so we will, kind of cover a lot of different topics. Not all as positive as I typically would prefer to be. I, would love to just be talking about, the wrestling in the ring and how great it is, and cool events that are coming up and great matches and this and that. But I do feel I need to address definitely some of what has been going on overall, like I said, in our country and as far as wrestling is concerned. So first, our country, has been going through a little bit of, it's an election year. I don't want to get political, but I will say it's an election year, and typically during election years, a lot of stuff comes up that tends to rile people up, and a lot of it is justifiable, and then a lot of it is, in my opinion, dug up to kind of create a little bit of rage and anxiety amongst people. And how I'm going to bring that into the wrestling world is, I know that there is a lot of what, going on with people not getting along with each other. But as far as wrestling fans are concerned, I've been to literally over hundreds of events in my life, starting, over the past 30 years or so, some as a kid, into my teens, into my 20s, and then, now as a family man going with my wife and my children. And I will say that we really, as wrestling fans, do tend to be very open towards each other and very kind to each other. There's a lot of time that you spend, entering arenas, waiting in lines for meet and greets and things of that nature. And you just kind of talk to your neighbor. It's acceptable and encouraged. When you're sitting in the arena, you kind of, whoever you're sitting next to on one side or the other, you just kind of become friends with them for a couple hours because you share this common bond, this positive energy. And, I don't know if this was always the case. There were many years growing up that there was a kind of a stigma or a stereotype for wrestling fans. Wrestling, with its popularity, really a lot of it being known as kind of a Southern promotion. The typical wrestling fan stereotype was definitely not as positive. It was almost at times, and I'm not trying to say that I was embarrassed, but it was almost at times like where people would try and embarrass you for being a wrestling fan. And in fact, more often than not, when they described professional wrestling, they wouldn't even use the word wrestling. It was more of, oh, so you like that wrestling. They kind of they threw that Southern draw in there and they called it wrestling, and then they kind of made fun of you and the people, in those crowds. And it was kind of known for being, I want to say it was known for being lower class, not saying it's true. I'm just saying that was this stereotypical stigma that wrestling fandom kind of came with. And then a lot of that, then the WWE itself kind of catered to this, in certain aspects. They, during the Attitude Era, and this was, WWE / WWF, as well as WCW, they definitely catered toward a certain demographic. And they catered to them by using lots of foul language, lots of blood, lots of sex, that kind of That's what they were selling at that time. The idea was to make the matches as violent as possible. Make sure you use profanity in your promos, and make sure that the women weren't really encouraged to use their skills in the ring. They were encouraged to use their looks and to sell, and so that's what it was for a while, and it was not definitely not a family atmosphere, and definitely not a PG atmosphere. The signs in the audiences were usually inappropriate. The T-shirts they sold were inappropriate. Even the fans themselves, there was a little more an aggressive fan base, and so there was a lot of drinking in the stands and aggression and whatnot. And I, for as much as people who are not hardcore WWE fans, or people who are hardcore fans of other companies, they tend to want to really rip on and bash Vince McMahon. And, obviously he is not a perfect human being. But as far as a wrestling professional, promoter, owner, company man, whatever, there is no denying the impact he has had on the business, the ability for him to kind of step up and take the forefront on things, creating WrestleManias, his pay-per-view, market, his coming up with the network, things of that nature. He kind of, as far as wrestling is concerned, he really was at the forefront of a lot of things. And another thing that he deserves to get more credit for, and unfortunately continues to get bashed for by a vocal minority, is when WWE went to the PG era in 2008. I mean, there were a lot of hardcore fans that were very much against it. There are a lot of people to this day that still claim that the product is suffering because of that. But that being said, the stuff that they did back then, just they wouldn't be able to get away with it today. We glorify a lot of that era because of the superstars from it. The Stone Colds, the Rocks, the Undertakers, Triple H's, and in WCW, Ric Flair, and the NWO, and Goldberg, and all, and we look back and so fondly on those guys, and rightfully so. I mean, those are some of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, the biggest stars of all time. But if you think about some of the storylines, some of the segments, some of the speeches, some of the way they treated each other, the way they treated the women, the mental and physical abuse that was done, that doesn't work today. So Vince McMahon was smart enough, there was obviously most likely a financial, stake to be made from that decision. By going PG, they were able to, go get a lot more corporate sponsoring and bigger TV deals and that kind of thing. And so I'm not saying he's a saint. He's deserves sainthood for doing this decision. But that being said, he was certainly well ahead of the game as far as, cleaning up the sport, cleaning up professional wrestling, cleaning up the product. It's something that I totally enjoy bringing my family to, and I've been bringing my children to since before they could walk. When I am on year 14 of my marriage, towards the beginning of that, it was still, towards the end of the Attitude Era. I mean, the ruthless aggression. It was still whatever violence and that kind of thing. And at the time, my wife seemed very uncomfortable with the idea of allowing our future children, to get into and watch and enjoy professional wrestling. But that very quickly changed. Like I said, the way they changed what they were doing, the way they were changing the programs, the type of matches, the type of promos, that sorts of things. And then, like I said, from very early on, we've been bringing our children, and they are huge fans of it. They enjoy the product. They enjoy meeting the wrestlers, and for the most part, so many of the wrestlers are so good. They're good people. They know that their fans are their bread and butter. Their fans are why they do what they do, and it really, like I said, for the most part, most professional wrestlers tend to be very good people. Now, that being said, just like professional wrestlers, just like doctors, just like lawyers, just like police officers, just like teachers, like priests, like anybody else, you're never going to get 100% good. It's just not going to happen. And so that kind of segues me a little bit into the speaking out movement that we had to, that kind of came out over the past couple weeks. And let's just say, as a fan, it was tough. It was tough to hear and see some of these accusations, some of these things that were going on. I'm very glad that anybody who felt abused in one way or another, or harassed and that kind of thing, was able to speak out. I think it was a great thing. I'm glad that there seems to be a lot of listening, and that's what you want. You want people to listen. You want companies, wrestlers, fans, promoters, everybody else. You want to be heard. And that way we can continue to clean up. And like I said, most wrestlers are good, and most wrestlers are great. Great people, great to the fans, great to each other, that kind of thing. But if this kind of movement helps weed out some of the ones that aren't as good, then you know what? That's what's got to happen. But like I said, as a fan, it was hard. It was hard to weed through, and it's unfortunate because while so many of the accusations were spot on, were evidence, were true, there's always going to be the ones that maybe aren't as true. And so it's kind of tough to listen to and hear what is being said about some of these people that you kind of thought highly of. And so it's again cleaning up a little bit, and I think as far as the WWE is concerned, and I'll just take it from there. I'm not going to go into all the details of all the people and all the other companies and whatever else. I know Jack Gallagher was quickly released and erased from history. I know that quite a few of the UK wrestlers were ones that were there were a couple that were let go, a couple that were suspended, and then there were a couple more that there seems to be a lack of evidence or support from the company as far as, supporting the wrestlers based on the evidence or the claims or whatever else the case may be. The highest profile of that case would be Matt Riddle. He, is still seems to be in line for getting, a big push on Friday Night SmackDown. He seemed apparently to have let the company know of this person, this woman, before he was even hired with the company. Open and honest seems to be a real big, thing to do. You kind of handle those situations that way, and it'll kind of help you out in the long run. But again, hopefully this movement is something that just, it opens up some eyes. It allows, like I said, the people to be heard that need to be heard, and allows the cleaning up of people needing to get cleaned up and either removed from companies or given the help that they need. Another profile one, this is not WWE, was from AEW, Sammy Guevara. I always have a hard time with his last name. And I guess it does involve the WWE, because he was suspended based on some comments he made 4.5 years ago in a podcast regarding Sasha Banks. They hashed it out. They communicated, and from all accounts, he's going through some training. He's been suspended. He's going through some training to kind of clean up his image a little bit, and hopefully some sensitivity training, just to remind him that there's just certain things you can't say. There's certain jokes you can't make, certain ways you can't say things. And that's true for all of life. But like I said, this movement was part of what was, helping the wrestling business kind of clean up and open up through some of these things. And so, like I said, it was just for a while. There was just a lot of negativity going on, and I think we're all just kind of getting, there's just a level of frustration, a level of tenseness that people are feeling in this country based on just all of what's going on and the difficult issues that you're having to deal with and you're having to speak about. And, the COVID-19, the coronavirus that's still affecting professional wrestling. It's affecting all of us. But again, from a professional wrestling standpoint, there seems to be wrestlers and behind the scenes talent that are getting it, that are, it's affecting what we're getting to watch on TV. It's affecting our ability to enjoy the shows in person. This is summer. This is when, you're supposed to be able to potentially travel and go see these shows and go do all these fun things. And it's tough. It is tough to watch, on TV sometimes. And I feel like there is a lot of good things that are happening, in both companies, in WWE and AEW. Those are the ones that are really still going right now. And a lot of it is being overshadowed because for whatever reason, ratings are down. People are having a hard time watching with no fans. People are having a hard time dealing with what's going on in the real world and how it's bleeding into professional wrestling. And it's unfortunate because, we are missing some good stuff. There are some good things that are happening. There are some people that don't typically get opportunities, getting more opportunities. The Apollo Cruzes of the world, the Andrades of the world, Angel Garza, some of these guys in the WWE that are really just, taking advantage of this time. And so it's nice. We're getting this whole Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman rivalry that I think would be making under normal circumstances, I think there would be so much more positive, attention being paid to this thing. The fact that they are allowing Bray Wyatt to kind of jump from one personality to another, back to his cult personality. It's just good stuff. And again, we're kind of missing out on all of that. And again, not only is there that, but there was this sudden Undertaker retirement. I did a whole podcast on the Undertaker and who should retire him and this and that. And then all of a sudden, he retired at the end of a documentary, which was great. The documentary itself was phenomenal, but, is he really done? We could spend a whole episode talking about that. So there has been a lot going on. And I don't think, I'll touch on it very quickly. I do think that he is not 100% done. I don't see him going out, in a taped, boneyard match, with AJ Styles. I don't see that being it. I feel like he should be going out in the ring. So we'll see. He says he's done. But we'll see. We'll see if he gets that itch. We'll see if maybe when fans get to come back, maybe this WrestleMania or next WrestleMania or Survivor, something. I don't know. Let's see if we can get that itch going. He can get that itch going, and because I would like to see him go out in front of a crowd, in a ring with fans. That would be my best. The best case scenario for him. So again, so much has been going on. It's been, like I said, it's been a couple weeks, and I just needed to step away. Just needed to process life in general. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope from a mental standpoint, from a physical and personal standpoint, you guys are all doing well. I thank you guys all for listening. I know the Fight Bananas. I think last month was the most listened to month in the history of it. Those of you that are into the MMA and UFC fighting kind of stuff, they do some great stuff. Like I said, I'm just I'm branching off of it. I'm, kind of hoping to steal some of that audience. There's that, obviously I've been on there, been on the Fight Bananas regular ones with Dave. And he's been on mine discussing the crossover between UFC and WWE and professional wrestling. So I enjoy doing this. This is a lot of fun. I thank you guys for kind of tuning in. I would like to have, I don't know, I kind of tried to touch on a little bit of what's been going on in this episode, so I can kind of keep, because I really do like keeping a positive vibe, a positive spin. I mean, I can't avoid talking about all of these topics. You know, they are a big deal. They are very important. And so, you know, I hope that we as humans, we as Americans, can kind of get through all of this. And this has been one heck of a year in 2020. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll make sure I get another episode out much quicker than this one, than the gap between these last two. And we got some events coming up. Right in between the Great American Bashes and Fighter Fest weeks. We got Extreme Rules coming up. So we got a lot of, you know, actual wrestling going on coming up, a lot of big events. So I do look forward to kind of talking about those, touching on some of those, and you know, hearing your thoughts on those as well. If you, once again, make sure you are liking and subscribing either on iTunes, or iTunes, Fight Bananas, find the Fight Bananas podcast. Follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, on, you know, all the good stuff. Anywhere you want to listen, YouTube, I'm all over the place. iHeartRadio, you name it, I am there. So thank you for tuning in, and I am tapping out.